what are the different drivers in Selenium, how do you create objects and invoke the different browsers and all. Okay, in today's class, we will be looking at how you can dynamically write a script which can work on all the browsers. Right. So, for example, if I make a new class known as uh, dynamic script, okay, and suppose we have to write a script like this, that is, we decide the browser name to be Chrome, then whatever script you write over here should be executed on the Chrome browser. Okay, if I change it to Mozilla, then whatever script I'm writing should be executed on Mozilla. Right. A simple solution can be that you can have an if statement that if the browser is equal to uh, Chrome, then you initialize your Chrome driver the way I had told you, that is this way. Okay, and else if browser is equal to Mozilla, then you initialize the Mozilla browser and take it to some website. Okay, you create the object of Firefox driver, right? And similarly, you can have something for Edge that else if the browser is equal to Edge, then you initialize the Edge driver. Okay, now this doesn't make sense because suppose if I have to interact with the web page and if I have to click on a link in Chrome, I will have to write the code for clicking on Chrome over here, for clicking on Mozilla over here, for clicking on Edge over here. So for every browser, I will be creating a different driver. Okay, so this actually doesn't make sense. Okay, I will be writing a different piece of code for every browser. This is what we don't want. All right, although we have if else statements, but replicating the code doesn't make sense over here. So how does this, how do we solve this? We solve this with the help of interfaces in Java. Okay, I will make a new project for today. Call it day 3. Okay, with the help of interfaces, we solve this problem. Now, interface is a concept in Java. What is an interface? Interface is something which gives you an idea about the system.
Hi,
Okay.
sorry to interrupt. Before you start with the interfaces, I'm not really sure. You just mentioned we have to click on the browsers of Chrome, Mozilla, or Edge.
Hmm.
What do you mean by click?
Click means clicking on a link. Suppose there is a link on bbc.com and you have to click on it. I haven't told you the code for that, how to write the code, but clicking basically means some element is there on the web page and you need to click on it.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Okay. So
Ashish, just a question. Even if this code is also works with any browser, right? We don't. It's a one-time written code, and it opens any browser, irrespective of what the browser will. If the if loop checks that and does the job, right? So why
it
do we
does the
need that?
job, but
Yeah.
if I have to go to suppose a website and log in, so I have to write separate code to log in into Chrome over here, the same separate code to log in into Mozilla, and same for Edge. So this doesn't make sense.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay, so that is the thing. So we use concept of interfaces over here, and the interfaces they solve this problem.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interfaces, they are something which give you an idea about the system. Suppose, for example, you open a website. A website is like an interface for you. It's got a UI. You're looking at the UI, you can say that what the website will do, but how it actually does and how it is, you really don't know. Okay. It gives you an idea that fine, you can get this particular service from a website. Or for example, if you go to a restaurant, you want to have food, you look at the food menu. Food menu is like an interface for you. Okay, you can see that what you want to eat, but how the stuff will be, you really don't know. Okay, so that is what an interface is. It gives you an idea about the system, and similarly, in Java also we have got interfaces. Okay, if I just a minute, I'll just open a browser as well. Right. If I run this, I think Mozilla will open. That's fine. So I'll just create a new class over here or a new interface. Hold on. I'll create a new interface and I'll just call the interface as a generic interface. For example, browser. Okay, so they don't relate this to Selenium. Okay, this is just an example. Okay. Uh, what are the properties of the browser? Browser will have a name, right? Then, uh, okay, in interfaces, you cannot declare variables like this. If you are declaring a variable in the interface, it is necessary to initialize the variables. Okay, so forget about variables for time being. So this was just for your information. In interfaces, you can have functions, like for example, a function like open or a function like navigate. So this is the interface browser in which we have three functions. And if you have an interface and you have functions in it, then you cannot have the bodies to the function. You can only declare the functions. That is fine. These are the three properties of the interface. If a layman is looking at the interface, just by looking at it, he will understand that fine. Browser will have three particular features. That is, you can open it, you can navigate to some website, and you can click on the browser somewhere. Okay, now suppose I have a new class over here known as say Firefox. So Mozilla is a browser, right? So it has all the features which the browser interface has. So what we write in Java is that we write the Mozilla browser implements the browser interface. So if a class is implementing an interface, it is supposed to implement all the functions in the interface. It is supposed to give body to all the functions which are there in the interface. So if you add the unimplemented methods, you will have all the three functions over here. Okay, right. And all the three functions will have the method bodies. All right. You just have to move the mouse over the error and add the unimplemented methods. At the rate override, this is known as an annotation. This basically means that this function is coming up from this particular interface. Okay, at the rate override is an annotation which basically tells that this function is coming from this particular interface. Okay, so inside it, I can write Mozilla opening. Right. So every function in the interface can have some code proprietary to that particular class. Okay, you can have some code. Similarly, I can create one more class known as Chrome, and I can also say Chrome implements the interface browser. So if it is implementing, you will have to have three functions inside this class as well. Even if I remove one of them, I will get an error. Okay, you need to have all the functions, and you can write over here Chrome opening, Chrome navigating, and Chrome clicking. So what I did was basically I had one interface and I made two different classes which were implementing the interface. Okay, I made Mozilla.java and Chrome.java. Now what's the use? Sorry. What is the use of doing this? You had one interface and you created two implementing classes out here. Okay. Instead of the interface, you could simply have the implementing classes themselves. You could simply have classes by the names Chrome or Mozilla. Okay, you could have never implemented the interface browser. Right. So what advantage did you get? What edge did you get by implementing the interface browser? Okay. The thing is, it gave a structure to the application. Just by looking at the interface browser, you will come to know that fine, these are the three functions. So definitely Chrome and Mozilla classes will be having these three functions. Tomorrow, if new browser comes up, 10 different new browsers come up, and for those browsers, I have to make a Java file. I will be sure that fine, these three functions are always there in all the 10 different browser classes. And if a layman looks at the code, he will understand just looking at the interface that fine, under those 10 classes, these are the few functions. Okay, if you look at Selenium, at the Selenium website, and you go to the download section, and out here, if you look at uh, the API docs, then these are all the classes. Okay, and some of them will be written in italics. So whatever is written in italics is an interface. Okay, like locatable, local strategy, all these are interfaces. Right. Everybody has heard about the word WebDriver. Here is WebDriver. WebDriver is basically an interface in Selenium. Okay, and all our driver classes, Chrome drivers, okay, Firefox, Mozilla, Opera driver, remote web driver, all these driver classes, they implement the WebDriver interface. In the same way that we had the browser class, and browser class had few functions, and Chrome and Mozilla classes were implementing the browser class. Similarly, you have this WebDriver interface which is being implemented by all your driver classes. So basically, in all the driver classes, the functions will be the same. In WebDriver interface, if you scroll down, there are functions to interact with the browser, like close the browser or find element, which will go and find some element on the browser. We saw the get function. You see, the get function was taking us to a website. Okay, I'll copy this file over here. Right. The get function. Okay, I need to put Selenium jars. Just a minute.
Ashish, meanwhile, can you because you defined some methods in the browser class, and then we were overriding those methods in Mozilla and
We
Chrome
are
browser.
implementing, not overriding. It's basically implementation. And yes,
And can we like change the properties of that function as per our needs? Because we have written CISO Mozilla opening and the Chrome opening,
mm,
for example. So can we like update the things in those functions?
look, Mozilla will implement the open function in its own way. Chrome will implement the open function in its own way. Okay, you can have a different code inside both the functions, but the names of the functions remain same.
So it's basically just about the names, but the properties of those methods we can like update as per our needs.
Yes, the code inside those methods you can update. Okay, and if you look at dynamic browsers as well, if I have to go to website on Chrome, I use the same method name. If I go to a website using Moz Firefox, I use the same method name get, and on Edge also I'm using the same method name get, because all these classes are implementing the interface WebDriver. And the WebDriver interface has got a get function which loads a new web page. And there are many other functions as well. We will look at them gradually. So basically, the WebDriver interface makes sure that the names of functions in all these classes are same. That's what it does basically. So it makes sure that the same function names in all driver classes. But this doesn't solve our problem. Our problem was that we have,
Ashish, one question before we
yeah,
go forward. The interface we are not we are just declaring the function there. We are not writing anything in that.
yes,
We cannot write, or
you
is
cannot
that a
write.
rule? Okay. So in going forward, if we need to have a common function again, so again we need to come back to the interface and define. I mean,
Yes, if I come back to the interface and make one more function, it's a close, then automatically errors will come up in both the classes. That fine, this interface has got one more function close, you have not implemented it. Okay, so you will have to implement that function there. Okay,
okay.
so this is good that the function names would be the same, but it
Ashish, one question here. So
yes,
here we are doing the WebDriver in this, the one which you are showing now. We are calling the WebDriver, Chrome, and Gecko driver for different browsers, right? But
Mhm.
this is not being done in the interface level when you have created the interface for Chrome and Mozilla, different interfaces. Where are we calling these functions? Gecko driver, Chrome driver, Edge
No,
driver.
this is something different. This is Java. This is just an example. Okay. The browser class was, I could have taken a different class like a car class or something and had
Okay.
two different classes. This is Java example, simple.
Okay.
Okay. This is just to make you realize that you have a simple interface and simple classes implementing the interface. In Selenium, we have the same function names in all the driver classes, whether it is Chrome, whether it is Firefox, or
Correct.
whether it is Edge. So you will have the same function names. The get functions will be there. But this doesn't solve our problem. Okay, guys, I'm not sure someone has his microphone on. Uh, it's interrupting the recording actually. So please check if your microphone is on. Right. So out here, um, the same function names in all the driver classes are there. But this is not solving the problem. Our problem was that for every browser, I am writing a different piece of code. I know every browser will have same function name. If I have to go to BBC and print the title of the web page, I can write Chrome driver dot get title. The get title function will give you the title of the web page. In case of Mozilla, if I have to get the title, I'll have to write, say, a Firefox driver dot get title. And in case of Edge driver dot get title. Function names are same, but again, I have to write a different piece of code. So this is also solved by the concept of interfaces. Okay, this is one advantage of interface. The other advantage is for the dynamic references. I'm going to teach you that right now. Okay, so suppose I make a new class over here known as test browser. Okay, and you define the browser as, or you just have the object of Mozilla class generated. Can create object of Mozilla class. Let's come back to our original example we were having. Okay, or you can create the object of Chrome class. Okay, if you talk about interface, the browser is an interface. If you try to create the object of the browser class or the browser interface, you will get an error that browser interface object cannot be created because the browser interface is something which is uh, abstract, which is incomplete. It's got nothing inside it. It's just got the method names. So Java doesn't allow you to create objects of interfaces, but Java allows you to create the references of interface. I can initialize the browser B reference to null. That means the reference of the browser B interface is pointing nowhere, but I cannot create objects. Now, what is the advantage of this? Suppose this is my Mozilla object. Okay, with this, if I call functions, mozilla.open, mozilla.navigate, mozilla.close, or click. So this will call the functions which are there in the Mozilla class. And similarly, I can write chrome dot open, chrome dot navigate, chrome dot click. So this will call the functions in the Chrome class. Okay. Right. But pretty simple. Now suppose uh, the Chrome browser, it gives you an additional feature which is not say coming up from the interfaces. Okay, so for example, public void Google profile. Chrome browser gives you the Google profiling option. Okay, so obviously you can call this function over here, but not with the Mozilla class. So a class which is implementing a interface can have its own proprietary function as well. Okay, but it will certainly have the functions from the interface. Those are mandatory. Okay, now comes the difference. Till now, I have been creating the objects of the classes like this. That is the name of the class, reference equals to name of the object. Now I will create the object little differently. I will write browser b1 equals to new Chrome. So how is this line different? Sorry guys, I'm a little cold. Right, sorry. So how is this line different from this particular line? Right. So, well, uh, over here you have the reference of the interface, and over here you have the reference of the class. I'm sorry, I got cold. Sorry. Okay. I'm in the northern area of India, near somewhere near Shimla, so it's really cold over here. Okay. So this is the browser Chrome interface reference, and this is, sorry, this is the class reference Chrome C. Okay, and you have this reference over here of the interface browser equated to the object of the class. Now, how is this line different from this line? Okay, how is this line different from this line? Look, with B1, you can access the functions, okay, in the class Chrome, which are coming from the interface. You can navigate, you can write b1 dot click, but you cannot write b1 dot Google profile. You will not get that option. You cannot call this function over here. If you create the object like this, you are creating the object with the Chrome reference of the class. You could access the proprietary functions. But if you create the object like this, that is, you keep the reference of the interface, okay, then you cannot create the objects. Sorry, you can create the object, you cannot call the proprietary functions. You cannot call the Google profile function over here. Then what is the advantage of writing this line over this line? This can call all the functions of the class, but this line can only call limited functions which are coming from the interface into the class only, not not the proprietary functions. Okay.
What are the, sorry, Ashish, I think I missed it. What is the definition of a proprietary function?
This is the one, Google profile. This is the function which is there in the class, not coming up from the interface.
Okay, got it.
Okay, this is something which Google specifically gives you. Okay, so you cannot call this function. To call this or to have to understand the advantage, you can understand like this. That is, I can also have a reference of a browser, say B2, pointing towards new Chrome class or new Mozilla class. And if I write b2 dot open, okay, I'll just put a demarcating line and run this. So this will print Mozilla opening. So this line is printing Mozilla opening. But based on my choice, I can make b2 now point towards object of Chrome class. I can move the reference. This is the reference of the browser interface. It can point towards object of Chrome class as well or object of Mozilla as well. Okay, so if I write the same line is written, but the same line will have different outputs. So it will print Chrome opening. So for this, it is printing Chrome opening, and for this, it is printing Mozilla opening. Because over here, it was pointing towards the object of Mozilla. Over here, it is pointing to Chrome. So I can dynamically move my references. I can write over here, say browser b3 equals to null. That means the reference of the interface b3, the reference of the interface browser is not pointing anywhere. Based on my choice, I can make b3 point towards object of Mozilla, or I can make b3 point towards object of Chrome. Okay, so this is how you will be using interfaces. Okay, you can have the interface reference, and that reference can point dynamically to any implementing class. Till now, we have been creating the objects of our driver classes like this. That is, we create Chrome driver object, we create Firefox driver object separately. But we all know that all the driver classes, they implement the WebDriver interface. Okay, so we can also create the objects like this. Okay, that is WebDriver some reference equals to new Chrome driver, or WebDriver some reference to something, or we can write that WebDriver driver is null. WebDriver is an interface. This line is equivalent to this, like browser was an interface for us. Based on our choice, I can make the driver point towards new Chrome driver, that is a Chrome object, or I can make the driver point towards new, sorry, Firefox driver. Okay, or I can make the driver point towards new Edge driver. It is completely my choice. And you must have seen in Selenium, we write the code like this, that is WebDriver driver equals to new Chrome driver. Okay, we always write the code like this, right? So that is how Selenium works. Okay, in Selenium, WebDriver is the interface, and all the other classes, Firefox, Chrome, Edge, they implement the interface. That is why the reference of the driver, WebDriver, can be pointed towards any class. So this is the second advantage of interface. The first advantage was that it was forcing every implementing class to have the same name. Okay, and the same function names. And the second is that we can have a dynamic reference created. Okay, we don't need to now write the code like this everywhere. Okay, you don't need to write this code. Okay.
Ashish, but then to access the functions of that particular um, browser,
The
like for
proprietary
Chrome.
functions which are
Yeah.
there only in Chrome, we don't have many. There
Okay.
aren't many. Okay. So you can make driver point towards new Chrome driver, or in case of Mozilla, you can make driver point towards new Firefox driver. In case of Edge, you can make driver point towards new Edge driver. Okay, so if I am writing Mozilla over here and if you run the code, see a blank Mozilla will open up. If I just change the variable from Mozilla to Chrome and run it, so the same script runs, but this time the Chrome browser will open up. Right. And the next commands you don't need to write in the if else blocks. So once the browser is opened, the function names are same. You can fire the commands. Okay. You can write say driver dot get. So if driver is initialized on Chrome browser, the get function of Chrome driver will be initialized. If it is Edge, then get function of Edge will be initialized. Okay, so you can write like this that driver dot get to some website. Okay, what is the error? Okay, you have to write just you have to initialize the local variables in Java null. So when you run this now, see Chrome will open and will be taken to Yahoo, right? And in case you change the browser name Mozilla over here, it will be opening Mozilla, right? And taking you to Yahoo. So generally what we do is that we read this browser name, we read this, we access this browser name from an external source, maybe an Excel file or a JSON file or something, right? And we change it over there and our script runs dynamically. Okay. Now, guys, look, the thing is, I'm going to do something little different in this batch because I never used to do it. I'll talk about JSON now. I'm just going off the topic from Selenium to some other topic. These days, JSON is very famous. The data and our dynamic stuff in the project is maintained in JSONs. So we will also be using JSONs in our particular training sessions. We will use JSONs to store data and all. Okay, so I'm giving an assignment to you because I will come over to JSONs later in this particular training, but I just want to give you an idea and I want to give you a few things to do. JSON is used basically in APIs these days, and I'm not sure whether you know APIs or not. If you don't know, then also it is fine. Suppose I have to pass over information about some, say, student records. A very simple example. Okay, so or my test data. I have my test data and I want to store it somewhere. So one option is Excel file. There are problems in Excel file. First of all, you need a Microsoft license. The second problem is the complex data maintenance is very tough when you're writing test cases. The maintaining complex data is tough in JSON, especially for automation, sorry, in Excel, especially for automation scripts. So you create a new file known as, say, test data .json. So you use JSON files and it's got very famous these days. In JSON, you have got key value pairs. Okay, for example, you write over here the test name is, say, shopping test. So this is the key, and with this key, a value is associated. Okay, you put a comma and then you can specify the next key value pairs, but make sure you follow the syntax. There should be a colon in between like this. Okay, then you can write browser. For this particular test is Chrome. Okay, you can write that, say, username for this test is uh, say some username. So you can mention the data like this. Now suppose Uh, for this test, you have to buy some, while executing the shopping test, you have to buy some products and you have to buy 5 different products. Okay, so to mention multiple elements under this shopping test, okay, you don't like write like this. That is, product one is, uh, say, mobile, product two is, say, cup. You don't write dynamic keys in a JSON. Why am I telling you JSON? I will come over to this point. I have completely moved away from the topic. Okay. Uh, you don't write dynamic keys. Keys are something which should be always static. If there are 100 products, I cannot write product 1, product 2 until product 100. Okay. So we create an array over here for repetitive stuff. Okay, I'll write over here products. Products is an array. In JSON, there are only two types of brackets. One is curly braces and one is square braces. Square braces, they represent an array of different things. Maybe I can declare products like this, that is cup, mobile, sorry, different strings. Okay, I can define all the products which I want to buy in the shopping test like this. Okay, right. Or I can be defining my products in much more detail. Okay, I will use another key known as product details. Right. I can define my products in a more elaborative way as well in JSON using an array again. Right. But array, how do you define the array? Well, in this array, I'm going to make a different array. I will declare a JSON inside it as well. That is, for example, in product details, this is my first product detail. The name of the product is, say, cup, and say the minimum price or the maximum price for this product should be, say, I'll put some number 100. Ignore this error. Eclipse is just telling you like that. Okay. And similarly, you can have another product. You can have, say, product name as separated by a comma. So this is an array. In this array, this is my first product. This is my second product. Okay, I can keep mobile maximum price to say 1000. Okay, and similarly, okay, I can keep speakers. I can define my products over here. So square bracket, it represents repeating stuff in case of JSON. So we keep our test data something like this when we are implementing Selenium scripts. Now why did I tell you this thing? And what do I want to achieve? Is that you write a code to read this JSON. Okay, this is the first assignment which I'm giving you. Okay, search on the internet how to read JSON. There is just like we have jar files in Selenium, there we have jar files to read JSON as well. You have got a JSON simple Google API. Yeah, this is the Google JSON simple. Okay, API. You can download the jar file 1.1.1 from here. This is the link. You click on this bundle link and the jar file will get downloaded. Okay, this jar file has got uh, pre-built classes which will help you to read JSON files. Like in Selenium, we have got pre-built classes which help you to understand how to interact with the browser. Similarly, this jar file has got classes which will help you to read or create JSON files. But this is very simple than Selenium. Selenium API is very complex. It's got a lot of commands, but this jar file has got just one or two classes which will help you to read this JSON. Okay, I will give you the link on the chat. I'm giving you this assignment at a very early stage so that later on when we read the data from Excel, at least you can relate, or sorry, from JSON, you can at least relate that fine. This is how JSON is read or something. Okay. And moreover, if you do any mistake in JSON, that will be a problem. If I don't close this bracket, you will get an error. So you have to be very, very careful. And you can also validate your JSONs online. Okay.
Ashish, sorry, can you repeat the task, please?
Yeah, I'll repeat it. Just hold on. You can go to jsonlint.com and paste the JSON which you have made and click on validate JSON. If there is no error, it will tell you valid JSON. Otherwise, it will uh, throw an error on any line if you even don't close the bracket or something. So the brackets and all are very important. So I want you to create a JSON like this and try to read the JSON. Write a Java code which will go and read this entire JSON file. Okay, and it should be dynamic. That is, even if I add one more product over here, you don't have to change your Java code. So in this array, no matter how many products they come, your code should go and print the values of this JSON file. Okay, the keys always
Okay, it should
remain the
read
same.
and write in a file, or is it
It
only
should
read?
first of all try to read the JSON file.
Okay,
Okay,
and
we hardly create JSON files programmatically in Selenium. Read it, get the value of test name, get the value of browser, get the value of username. Now you cannot just read like this. There are supporting libraries which I just told you, the JSON simple project, okay, which has got a jar file. You click on this bundle and that single jar will get downloaded. And just search on Google how to use JSON simple uh, to read JSON. So you will get pre-made examples. Okay,
okay,
like on MyCong, it is telling you that how can you write the code and all. So ignore this first thing, Maven and all. This ignore. Okay, so it will tell you that fine, you have internal classes like JSON object, JSON array. You need to create the objects for those. So try to do it. Okay, maybe you will take
yeah,
some time, but it will give you a good exposure that how you write the Java code. Okay, and fine. Uh, Coming back to the program. Okay, so we made a dynamic script, okay, which could open the browser Mozilla. So generally this parameter is read from the test data. So if I change the browser from Chrome to Edge, then the script will run. It will read the Edge browser and accordingly it will open the browser. Okay. Now after going to yahoo.com or any website, you have to interact with the elements of the web page. How do you interact with the elements on a web page? Basically, Selenium works on the page source. Okay, every page has a page source. This page source is the HTML page source. Okay, Selenium works on this, and uh, you need to have a little bit understanding of HTML to sorry, to actually understand how the page source works. Okay. Look, this might look a little complex to you, but let's start with the Chrome browser. Okay. Suppose I am on a simple website like this, Zoho or salesforce.com, and you go to login, and you have to log in inside the website. Okay, so if you look at the username field and you have to interact with the username field using Selenium, then you need to inspect this field. You need to inspect the page source of this field. Okay, when you inspect, you get a window like this. You click on this arrow and move your mouse wherever you want on whichever element you want. You will get the page source of that element. This is the page source. The tag name is input tag. Okay, so HTML code is nothing but a combination of tags and attributes. For example, this is my input tag and this has got an attribute class, an attribute name. So this is my div tag which has an attribute ID. This is an input tag which has an attribute type. Okay. Similarly for the login button. Okay, this is the tag name for the login button input. There is an attribute class. Whatever starts with this conical bracket is known as a tag name. So with the help of tags and attributes, we identify the elements. Okay, you can inspect the elements in one particular browser, any browser. I prefer Chrome. Okay, you can also do it in say Mozilla. In Mozilla also you can right click on the element. There will be the option to inspect the element and that particular element will be highlighted on the web page. Okay, Mozilla Inspector opens up. But I prefer Chrome because it gives me many other added tools and advantages to understand page source in a better way, which I will be telling you in the coming time, right? And it doesn't matter. The You can investigate the browser in any page source. The browser might be different, but this particular page source remains the same. This complete page source remains the same across all the browsers. Okay, because this is actually the response from the server. Server never sends a different response to different browsers. Okay, so browsers interpret the response from the server and display the content. So even if I investigate the browser on one page source, say on say Chrome, if I investigate the browser and I write a script, the same script will work on all the other browsers as well. Okay, I will tell you in gradually what I mean by saying this. But yes, this Chrome inspector is going to help us a lot during the training, right? And that's it, I think, for today. Okay, we can meet tomorrow and I will tell you about interacting with the elements on the web page.
Ashish, I have a quick question. Can I download your videos and this code that you are?
I'm going to email you the video for today's class in your
Yeah, can
email.
I? Yeah, can that I cannot download the video.
No,
Do you know?
download you cannot do.
Okay. How
You
about
can
the? Okay. What about the
code.
code?
Code I will
Hmm?
give you a link in which
Okay.
I will keep all the code and you can download the code.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So, but I always recommend that please try to make your own code.
Okay.
Okay. Don't take my code because until or unless you are not writing the code yourself, you will not be able to do anything. Okay. So, anyways, so we will stop here. Okay. And um, I'll meet you tomorrow then, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So, are we going to have class Monday through Friday?
Monday
This
to Friday Indian time and Sunday evening to Thursday evening US time.
okay, Sunday to Thursday. Ashish, sir, I have one more question.
Yeah.
This actually, I don't have any experience with browsers, so I don't understand the